I'm Davy, and I'm awesome. And welcome to Davy's Awesome Movies, where I review the styles of movies that I love. Alternative, B-rated, cult-style flicks. And does it get any more B-rated, alternative, cult-style flick than a movie made by Ed Wood? Nope. This movie was made in 1959, but wasn't released until 1984. In fact, in 1984, it was given the title it has now. Before then, it was under Ed Wood's original title, Revenge of the Dead. This movie was directed, written, and produced by Edward D. Wood Jr., or Ed Wood, if you will, and presented by Wade Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the remastered review of Night of the Ghouls. The movie opens with Criswell.
I am Criswell.
Who was a famous psychic in the 1950s and 60s. Mostly known for his wildly inaccurate predictions. Like, for example, that in August of 1999, the world was going to end. Spoilers, it didn't.
Now I tell you a tale of the threshold people.
And like Plan 9 from Outer Space, he is the narrator.
For our talk, I must take you to your town, any town.
I don't live in any town, I live in Reno. At any town's police station.
Oh, it was a nightmare of horror!
Oh my god. She watched Hottie or Naughty.
Oh, it was horrible!
It's okay. It's okay. Paris Hilton is not making movies anymore. Calm down. And this old lady goes on about how horrible it was. What she saw was so horrible. And then Criswell goes into other things that the police might be investigating.
To relate the latest in juvenile delinquency.
It does make me laugh that there was a time that juvenile delinquency was dancing in public. Now, if a bunch of teenagers were dancing in public, they would just record it and put it on Facebook.
But is this the major horror of our time?
To be fair, this was the 50s.
How many of you know the horror, the terror I will now reveal to you?
A lot of us know that. Horror and terror. I hate convertibles. Oddly enough, her name is Karen. She just farted. As Karen is running away from the guy who would not put the top up, she twists her ankle. This all could have been avoided if you would have listened to your mother when she told you don't run on grass with heels. Her boyfriend shows up. No, don't hug me too. The hell was that? And now for something completely random. There was as much point of that being in the movie as it was being in my review. Then we meet Lieutenant Bradford, played by Duke Moore.
Now what's so important it couldn't wait until tomorrow?
Who was called in to investigate this case of what this old couple saw that was so horrible while he was about to go to the opera. Lieutenant Bradford is angry about being called in on a night that him and his wife were supposed to have a date, but the inspector tells him that this is right up his alley.
It could be ghosts.
So Lieutenant Bradford is a Ghostbuster! Then we finally see the story of this horrible thing the old couple saw on their way to Willow's Lake. Willow's Lake was the setting of Bride of the Monster.
Why did you ever take a road like this? Why didn't you stay on the main highway?
And why didn't you pull over and kick her out? They get near the old house that was destroyed at the end of Bride of the Monster. But then it's explained that somebody rebuilt the house. Even though clearly the house looks like a very old, dilapidated house. So somebody built a house to look old and disheveled. Sure.
Is that it?
You put your pound down and thrust your pelvis.
It's spooky, ain't it?
You have no idea. Then we finally see the horrible thing that we're talking about.
Not the bees! Ah!
No, that's not what they saw. They saw this. That's not horrible. Valda Hansen was actually quite lovely. Okay, those nails are a little freaky, but nothing near like, you know, the kind of nails from those like really like white trashy women where they get them like all curved and stuff and then paint them as if that's sexy. It's not. And that is the horrible thing they saw. But seriously, you think that's horrible? Go watch Master and Commander. Lieutenant Bradford agrees to go check it out. and the inspector wants another officer to go with him.
Kelton.
Yes, sir?
Officer Kelton, the bumbling idiot cop from both Bride of the Monster and Plan 9 from Outer Space. Making it very clear these movies are connected. But I wouldn't call them sequels. When they tell Kelton that he's going to the old Willows Lake house,
You mean where all those monsters come from?
You heard me.
God, just leave him.
Monsters, space people, mad doctors.
Yes, we know, the movies are connected.
I resign.
Problem solved. Well, except that they don't accept his resignation. I would. Lieutenant Bradford heads out to the Willows Lake house and meets,
I am Dr. Acula, your host.
played by Kenny Duncan, who, yes, plays Dr. Acula. And just in case you didn't get it, yeah, Dr. Acula was a concept that Ed Wood really wanted to do with his friend, actor Bela Lugosi, who played the original Dracula on film. But by the time this movie came out, Bela Lugosi had been dead for a few years. Dr. Acula claims that he's a medium for spirits and their families, and he takes Lieutenant Bradford to see. Then the white ghost, that's how she's casted, sees the black ghost, also how she's casted. The black ghost is played by Jenny Stevens, whose only other acting credit was also in an Ed Wood film. It was The Final Curtain, a short film that was supposed to be the pilot of a TV series kind of like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, where every week it was going to be like another like little small horror short film episode thing, but it never got picked up. But you can't find it, and it's kind of interesting, and it's only like 30 minutes. And inside the house...
The house was not all that remained of the old scientist horrors.
That's Lobo, from Bride of the Monster. Or at least what's left of him. Played by the old Swedish wrestler, Tor Johnson.
Patrolman Kelton arrived at the old house.
Oh goody, he's here. And he instantly sees the black ghost. And then, after shooting at nothing, very poorly, goes to radio for help.
And I'll be damned if I'm going to that haunted house alone.
How did you become a cop? Then we see a seance by Dr. Acula.
We tonight will bring him from that which was thought to be his final resting place.
An old rich widow, Mrs. Foster, wants to contact her dead husband. And then this happens.
I got nothing.
Me either. Still nothing. What the frick? Everything else gets explained. The trumpet, the sheet, and all that, but not that guy. He never gets explained. Which is odd, because that's kind of the thing I needed explained the most. And then, out of a coffin, Mr. Foster arises to tell his old widow woman that she should marry again.
Though he whom you have chosen may be younger in years,
Who wants to marry her?
strong to take care of you, to handle your business, your...
Ew.
I'm gonna say it's a scam.
Now I grow weary.
The actor who played Mr. Foster is Tom Mason, a chiropractor by trade, but in a couple of Ed Wood films. He was in this, and he also doubled for Bela Lugosi in Plan 9 from Outer Space. Because in Plan 9 from Outer Space, there was only a little bit of footage of Bela Lugosi shot. The rest of it was him filling in. Dr. Acula excuses himself to outside and talks with the white ghost about what's going on here. That the young man hired him to convince the old woman to marry him so that the young man can take all of her money.
And he's splitting the take with me.
Oh, knock it off! It was obvious! Lieutenant Bradford goes snooping around.
A staircase he remembered so well from the days long ago.
Of course he remembers it. In fact, all the footage of Lieutenant Bradford snooping around is actually footage that came directly from the short film, again, originally supposed to be a pilot, The Final Curtain. Since Ed Wood did not get the pilot picked up, he just decided to throw a bunch of the footage into here. Because we all remember that Ed Wood loved himself some stock footage.
I got nothing.
This was also from The Final Curtain. That's also Jenny Stevens. That's the only other credit she has.
Even the skin feels real.
And this is why we have sex robots. In the final curtain, it turned out the mannequin was alive, and Duke Moore's character was actually dead. In this, I don't know, they don't explain it.
Mr. Bradford.
That's where the stock footage ends, for now, and Dr. Acula is with Lobo.
Come, Lobo, we'll take him to the mortuary room.
Okay, you happy now? Officer Kelton finally musters up enough courage to go into the house. Apparently at the police academy they did not teach him the proper way to hold a gun.
Let everyone stay where they are. You're all under arrest.
Wow. Didn't know he had it in him. Nothing to worry about, people. It was just a cop trying to arrest people and now being knocked out. Don't get out of your seats. Lieutenant Bradford gets out of the room that Lobo locked him in. And walks into more stock footage.
Led across the room, toward the coffin at the back wall.
In the final curtain, there was nothing in the coffin. It just opens up, it's empty, and he gets in where he's going to spend all eternity. In this, though, there's something in the coffin. Kelton's dead!
How do you feel now?
Okay, I guess.
Hang it! Kelton and Lieutenant Bradford are looking for a way out.
Look!
Get Kelton! Get Kelton! You couldn't just wait for him to get Kelton? Also, why is it that earlier Kelton shot him 3 times and that didn't even faze him, but you guys shooting him, it did? What, do they have magic Lobo bullets in their guns? To buy Dr. Acula and the White Ghost some time to get out of there, the guy who was posing as Mr. Foster goes out and starts shooting at the police. To be fair, he was a chiropractor, not an actor. As Dr. Acula and the White Ghost are making their way out.
Good evening, Dr. Acula. We have been expecting you.
And these are the ghouls. Apparently, during his scam seances, Dr. Acula accidentally summoned these ghouls.
We must return to the grave. You will accompany us there.
Sucks to be you. That's really it. That's them getting him. Well, at least until... And they take him to the crypt. And that is the end, Dr. Acula. As far as the White Ghost, she runs into the Black Ghost.
It is time for you to join the others.
So what does the White Ghost do? She just casually walks to her own grave. Back inside, apparently they found Dr. Acula dead.
Yeah, what about those?
Yeah.
The props department forgot to pick them up.
Maybe the bodies have gone back where they came from.
Wow, Kelton gets it. They ask, what about the girl? They say she has to be around there somewhere.
Unless she's become a real ghost.
Why is that idiot the only one who gets it? Criswell says it's time for them all to go back to their graves.
And you may join us soon.
Are you threatening me? So there you have it. That's Night of the Ghouls, an Ed Wood classic that he never actually got to see get released. Apparently they had like a couple of premiere showings at theaters, but it never actually got out there for any kind of distribution. Not until in the 1980s when Wade Williams, the guy who bought the rights to Plan 9 from Outer Space and decided to distribute it, also bought the rights to Revenge of the Dead, which he renamed Night of the Ghouls. The story goes that Wade Williams was informed by Ed Wood's widow, Kathy Wood, that the film was being held at a lab where they had put the finishing touches on Revenge of the Dead, but Ed Wood could never get it released because he was never able to come up with the fees for the lab, and they kept it. It was just sitting there doing nothing. So, Wade Williams, while also purchasing the works of Ed Wood, also paid the lab fees so that he could take this movie and re-release it. And I'm kind of glad that he did, because after he bought the Ed Wood films is when they actually got out there. Like, Ed Wood made several films that were relatively unseen until the 80s. Plan 9 from Outer Space had gotten a little seen. It played in some theaters, and apparently Ed Wood himself watched it once playing on television, but it never really got out there for any kind of distribution. And he died around the time that, like, Betamax and VHSs were still a very new technology. So it was never on VHS, or now some of them are on DVDs. And if it wasn't for Wade Williams, that never would have happened. So thank you, Wade Williams. Because, honestly, as cheesy as these movies are, to me, they all got just the same amount of heart. They got a guy who just wanted to make the kind of movies that he would be entertained by, and did the best with what he had, which was very little. He never had big budgets, he never had a lot to work with, so he just worked with what he had to make movies that just weren't the mainstream, because that's not what he enjoyed. He liked the movies that were not mainstream. And if it wasn't for guys like Ed Wood making those kinds of movies, we wouldn't have some of these awesome non-mainstream directors out there. Guys like David Lynch or John Waters. In these kinds of things, there's always like the sacrificial lamb, and it was Ed Wood. But thank you, Wade Williams, for making his movies available to us. In fact, this movie, if you want to check it out, you can find it on the YouTube. And I recommend you do. Because no, the acting isn't great, the story's a little ridiculous, but it's actually very entertaining. Whether you're entertained by it by just being an honest movie with heart, or being a train wreck of a movie, whatever, it's very entertaining. In my opinion, a lot more entertaining than the stuff they put out now. So there you have it, that's my review of Night of the Ghouls. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit like. Hit subscribe. Hit that little bell so you get notifications for when I post new videos. And leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of Night of the Ghouls. Tell me what you think of any of the Ed Wood movies. Love you guys.